Welcome to Roof It Up. This is a podcast about innovators, entrepreneurs, business leaders, and their stories about the course they took by Saenz Global.
Tycer, welcome to our podcast, Roof It Up. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself? I really appreciate the opportunity.
What we want to know is, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you currently do?
I guess I'll just start with my backstory. It's a little weird. It's a little crazy. So is that all right? You want me to hit you from the beginning?
We love the stories.
All right, cool.
What got you to where you are?
Awesome. So it's a long story. I'm kind of a career vagabond in a way. When I was young and in high school, I was in the arts. I studied classical music, actually.
Nice.
So I was a classically trained percussionist, drummer, that sort of thing. Thought I wanted to play in orchestras. Went to college for music performance and kind of burned out in college. I was working my way through college. I was doing a lot of stuff. I was practicing a lot. And I kind of just got sick of it, burned out, stopped caring. And just, my teacher could tell. He was like, dude, what's going on? Mm-hmm. And I don't regret it at all because my teacher at the time, he's still to this day probably the most influential person in my life, taught me a lot about success and how to work hard and things like that. But I burned out. I kind of disappointed him a little bit. But in college, I ended up and I didn't know what I was going to do. I thought about switching majors, didn't want to take out the money to finish my degree. So I still to this day never finished college. And I wound up being a recording studio bum for a while. So I fell into kind of the technological aspect of music, ended up in a local recording studio, kind of worked at that, learned on the job, very self-taught. Did that for a long time, had success. So I'm actually a multi-platinum and multi-gold record engineer, audio engineer, believe it or not.
What? That is fire.
Yeah, crazy. So yeah.
Whoa.
Crazy. So yeah. And that world is cool, but there's a lot of kind of unprofessional type of things that go on in that world as well. It's very political. And even though music is so skill-based, there's still a lot of politics involved, a lot of, gears you got to grease and things like that. And so I did it for a while, kind of got sick of that too after about 8 years. I also did a lot of video editing on the side, just all around kind of media guy. I did live audio for my church, video editing for my church, stuff like that. So that's really the majority of my life has been spent in music, media, and arts. But around the time COVID hit, stopped doing the recording studio thing, stopped doing the music thing, was just working at my church. It's like, what am I going to do? And my friend Drew hit me up and he's like, dude, you'd be great at sales. You'd just really kill it at sales. I've got this roofing company. We're going crazy. I'm hiring like crazy. You're going to do great. I'll teach you everything you need to know. And I was driving for FedEx at the time, just as a little side job. Quit that day. I said, hey, I'm not coming in tomorrow. Went to his place the next day, started. And the first month, I was the top sales guy. I think I sold 15 roofs or 12 roofs my first month, which for them was a lot. And I just found my calling in sales, loved roofing. And then from that point, did roofing for about a year. Drew had a kind of a partner, and Drew's great. Awesome guy, amazing at what he does. His partner, not so much. And they kind of got on the rocks a little bit. And so Drew started his own new company, and I was going to follow him to his new company. I was like, I love roofing. I could do this forever, but maybe this is my opportunity to go even deeper into sales, maybe sell something a little bit more challenging, maybe do something a little bit more, I don't know, maybe long-term, maybe residual. I had kind of those thoughts in my mind. And I had some friends who work here at Higginbotham. Shot off one email. That was my only email I was going to shoot off before I went and worked with Drew. And they hired me. So wound up here in insurance. I love insurance. I think I'm finally not a vagabond anymore. I think I finally found my calling.
Nice.
I'll probably be here till I'm done. So there's the full story.
I love the journey. Like one thing I remember I think that was in middle school. I was getting a tour of our school and they were talking about orchestra, and there's like facts around orchestra. Like orchestra actually helps like really your intelligence level.
Thanks. Yeah. Back in the day, I used to teach a lot too. And that's what I'd always tell my kids when they hated being there. I'd be like, hey dude, what do you want to be when you grow up? They'd be like, oh, I want to make video games, or I want to drive race cars. I'm like, okay, great. Well, guess what? Being an orchestra is actually going to make you better at that. They'd be like, really? Yes, you don't have to do orchestra forever, but right now you're here. So let's make the best of it. It's going to make you smarter.
It's awesome. And I love how, everyone has a story. And I love how, orchestra is part of your story. And then also like music editing, all of those things, film editing. And then you went into sales and and I know that I've spoken to you, you're fantastic with people. You have really great people skills. So it would make sense that now you're like in the insurance world, which I love. What are like the best resources that have helped you in your journey? I know like you mentioned your friend Drew. I know you mentioned your teacher, but like what are some resources that really helped you in your journey in life that you're in?
So yeah, number one, I'm just going to start with my teacher back in the day. And having a mentor, I think, is crucial. And it doesn't have to be necessarily a one-on-one type of relationship where you meet with them in person, but find someone that you can respect, that you can look up to. And it'd be even better if they have the time to put back into you as well. But my teacher really showed me a lot of stuff. He instilled in me a work ethic. He was really, one of the number one things he was with me was honest. I would come into our lessons, and the classical music world is pretty cutthroat. It's pretty brutal. That's one of the reasons I burned out, just kind of seeing the landscape. You're like, dude, this is going to be really hard to get into an orchestra. And but he was honest with me about that. If I came in and I wasn't prepared that day, he'd just be like, hey, Ty, like, good try, but there's someone else out there. They did better than you this week. They, they worked a little bit harder than you did this week. And I'm not saying that to make you feel bad. I'm saying that to say, if you really want this, I need to be honest with you about what it takes to get there. Right. And so I think some of that just brutal honesty is really important. And your own, you can primarily get that from a mentor, someone who can be honest with you, who can teach you and can give you some of the skills that you don't know, because, the age old saying is you don't know what you don't know. And, so I think that's number one. Find someone that can mentor you, find someone that can speak into you, put time into you, and help you with what you want to do. It doesn't have to necessarily be a one-on-one thing like a teacher-student relationship, but that's a great way to do it. And Drew, in the sales way, he was like that for me too.
That's awesome. And it's so true, like in life, and I feel like all the great stories, right, that you hear about businesses, et cetera, entrepreneurs, all that, it's like there always was someone there that saw the potential that you have or had or have, and just kind of like pointed it out, like really is like, hey, you got to level up. And so the importance of a mentor in everything that we do in the walk and all that, even in our careers, and kind of guiding us is so vital. And I think it just comes with a lot of humbleness as well, because sometimes they kind of shoot straight and it hurts to hear that, but I know the wise take it and they just become better, right? So it's like always choosing to either be a fool or be wise. And so I think that's really, really neat that you've had some really key people in your life that have helped, your path where you are, and you're still super young. So like you still have a long, and I love how you like give back to students as well. Kind of, you mentioned like being able to give back to how people gave back to you. So that's it's so important. It's like so easy to forget. Life is about people,
and not to get too deep here, but that's a big problem with our education system in general, is there's just not a lot of inspiration going on. And if you don't have that mentor that can inspire you, that can show you, because, most people, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree sometimes. You're born in this area with this level of income. Right. It's hard to get past that. And it's really impossible to get past that if you don't have a vision of what's beyond that. And so you need that mentor to give you a vision, to help you envision that. Some people are born with a vision, like you're probably one of those people, you were just born with this drive and desire for something, but not everyone is that way. And some people just think that what's around them is all there is.
Yeah, it's so true. In many aspects, I can totally understand that. Like, obviously, I'm from the Amazon jungle of Brazil. And so it's just funny. It's like, I look back at my life. It's like, if I go back and I look at, where I was, if I would have just stayed there, that's all I think I would have known. Right. Which is not a bad thing. I just think it happens to a lot of people, where it's like, they were just in one place for so long. And they don't realize like there's a lot more that they could maybe doing, but we can get way in a rabbit hole on there one. Okay. So what is a common myth about your profession that you want to debunk? So I know you're in the insurance profession. What is a common myth that you want to debunk?
I think, as far as with roofers go, is that insurance is the bad guy. In many ways, insurance carriers can be the bad guys. They definitely have done it to themselves in a lot of ways, but they're not always like that. And not every carrier is like that. So, I don't represent personally in my business. I'm commercial insurance. So I'm the insurance for the roofer, for the company. I'm not the insurance for the person. So you're not fighting me on a hail claim. You're not fighting my carriers on a hail claim, thankfully. So, but you might be working with me if one of your guys falls off a roof, if someone steps on a nail, if someone gets, a homeowner gets hurt on a job site, things like that. So that's where I would be coming into play. But we're not always the bad guys. We just have, it's an industry. It's an industry that makes money. It's an industry that has rules and standards. And so, they generally have to be followed. But at the end of the day, if a carrier, if you're with a carrier, they generally want to keep you there and they want to keep you happy. So I think that's probably the number one myth. It's somewhat justified and somewhat not justified, I guess.
Makes sense. Do you feel like for roofing contractors, if they're make relationship with their insurance, in both sides, carriers, etc., like, do they have a better opportunity of actually like gaining more jobs and things of that nature? Because it's all relationship based, right? Like, what is your point of view from being on the insurance side? And you've also kind of you've been in the roofing side as well. So kind of what's your outlook on that?
So yeah, relationships is everything. Some of our biggest clients that we have here in the roofing space, one of the reasons that they chose to work with us is because we partnered with them. We were like, hey, we can recommend you guys. It's not a quid pro quo thing, but we're all in a family here together. If we're going to recommend a roofer, we're going to recommend a good one, and that's you guys. So you guys match our values, we match your values. So having a relationship with your own commercial insurance broker is super important. He might be able to send you some jobs. He might be able to send you especially some commercial jobs. And most insurance brokerages these days do all lines of business. So you can get hail claims, you can get commercial jobs, you can get all sorts of stuff. So relationships is absolutely crucial. The biggest area where having a relationship with your own commercial insurance broker is going to be advantageous to you is making sure that they understand your business and your risk very well, and then can present you in the best light possible to a carrier. Every year, if you're not going to market or you're going to market, you need to be presenting your business in the best light to an underwriter. Insurance underwriting is a little bit different than like, mortgage underwriting. It's a little bit more, there's a little bit of leeway there. You can send off a submission to a market to get coverage that's plain and dry and it's just all the numbers, and the underwriter is going to treat it like that. But what we do here and what I try to do with my clients is we write a cover letter that explains the roofer, that explains their business, talks about why they're favorable risk, why that they are very knowledgeable about what they do. Let's say they had a claim, why they've taken steps to fix that claim, why they've taken steps to eliminate that possibility from happening again. So we like to send off a cover letter with a very comprehensive view of the client to send off to underwriting to get them the best coverage, get them with the best carriers, and hopefully get them better rates ultimately too.
Just realizing for the roofer, there's definitely opportunity. Again, it goes back to relationship. And so connecting, like you said, with their, insurance carrier, all those things, there is definitely some ability that they can gain more, not just, again, there's such a power in partnership, right? So there's tons of opportunity there, and that's really good to know. Cause I know sometimes it can be a total battle. It's like we're fighting one another, from all I hear in the memes and all this stuff, but it's actually very interesting that you can have like a partnership and you guys can win together, which is pretty neat.
Yeah.
Very
and that's,
cool.
That's more on the side of the roofer and their own commercial insurance provider. Having a relationship with the roofer and the insurance companies, the Allstates and the State Farms and all that stuff. Definitely have relationships with them. It's going to be a little bit more difficult because one, they're a lot bigger than you are. So you're not going to quite get the time of day. But try it. I think that the roofing world still has lots of room to grow. I think there's lots of innovation that can be happening. There are a lot of kind of rough edges that can be smoothed out. And if a smart roofer comes along and can solve problems like that, you're going to kill it. You're going to win big time, because there is a lot of friction between carriers and roofers and claims. There is a lot of friction there.
Absolutely.
And I know in Texas, a lot of carriers have left this area because of the amount of hail claims. I know with our job, we're trying to insure a church here in Fort Worth. No one wants to write the wind and hail for that church because they know the risk associated with it. So I think the more that roofers can work with carriers and just have it be a smooth process for everyone, it's going to be better for the company, better for the carrier, better for the homeowners, and better for the roofers.
Right. That's some good info there. So yeah, let us know, like, who's your ideal client? If they're listening, how can they get a hold of you?
Awesome. So my ideal client right now is anyone in the building and contracting space. Obviously I love roofers, so that's probably priority one right now. And it's just because I'll be perfectly honest. I'm new to insurance. I started this year, and insurance is so industry specific. There's so many little quirks and things regarding policies that you really need to know an industry well to be knowledgeable in it. So I was like, I already know roofing for the most part. Let's start there. Let's not make my job even harder than it has to be.
Right.
I would probably write any line of business that I could, but I don't know a lot of these other industries, and I can get someone here to help me with it, which I'll absolutely do. And I'll even have someone helping me with on most of my roofing jobs as well. But started with roofing just because I know it. So my ideal customer would be roofers. And at this point, I'm taking basically any size, which is an advantage of someone that's new. I'm willing to write smaller companies, ones where your premiums are only, $3,000, $5,000. So a lot of bigger firms are not going to take those clients. They're not going to deal with them because they don't consider them payable. They don't make them a lot of commission, things like that. But me, on the other hand, I'll actually take that. I can give you service that's on a par with bigger companies, as even though you're a smaller company. So my ideal client is a roofer of any size, basically.
Nice. Okay.
I'm primarily focusing on, around Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, maybe Missouri, stuff like that.
Perfect. Okay, cool. And then let's say if they want to get a hold of you, like ASAP, where can they find you?
You can shoot me an email. It's twhaley, TWHALEY at higginbotham.net. You can also find me on Instagram at Tycer. And you can also go on Higginbotham's website. Check us out there. Let me see, where else can you find me? You can call my cell if you want, 817-368-7837. Shoot me a text.
Nice. All right. So Tycer, thank you so much for coming on our podcast. We love your story. Love that you were in orchestra and like life has led you now to insurance. You did roofing, all the good things. And now you're helping roofers all over the nation to, make a difference. One thing about Tycer is that he will pick up the phone when you call, or he will answer your text, or he will definitely respond back. And that's a huge thing in the industry. It's so important to have someone that can actually respond back to you when you need them. So I will say Tycer, definitely highly recommend him. He is a 10 out of 10. So go check him out.
Wow.
All right. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
I'll definitely always be picking up my phone. That's low hanging fruit that a lot of brokers don't do for some reason. So if your broker's not answering your emails within an hour, hit me up.